This is JD Calderon on Indy Comics Explained, and today we have David Whalen,
Yep.
and we're going to be talking about his comics. David, tell us about yourself and your books.
Sure. Hey, JD. Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it. I am the owner of Correct Handed Comics. We put out a number of books over the last couple years, but the one that I'm really focusing on is our ongoing action suspense thriller, The Offspring. Today's Thursday, right? We just yesterday published issue 11 in print and digital. And so we're going pretty strong on that. We have our one shot that we put out in January, also called The Shady Lady. That's kind of a thriller noir kind of mystery. But The Offspring is the story, the ongoing series that I'm really paying attention to, really trying to get eyes on. It's a story of three kids. I say kids, but they're in their 20s. We kind of flip back and forth between their childhood and their 20-somethings. And they were all abused mentally, physically, emotionally from their parents. They end up meeting up in an alternative school, and they come to realize that they have a really strong bond, a really strong link. And it's not just from their powers that they have that all manifested through their abuse as children. It's also just their mental link that they seem to share and seems to get stronger as the story goes. So I'm really focusing on really enjoying how the story's coming out, where these three characters are really starting to bond. They're really starting to understand where these powers come from and why they have the connection that they do.
Now, I mean, that's interesting. I mean, what was like the genesis for this story? Like, where did that come from you? Like, what did it come from, a life experience or just something you saw maybe as a kid? That sort of thing.
I'm a little bit from life experience. I started writing this when I was 16 years old, so many years ago. But I've had the basics of the story, and I've had the basic characters, and obviously, as I've changed and grown, the story has changed and grown. But the idea was many years before it was popular. The idea of no fights, no tights. When Smallville came out, and they were saying no fights, no tights, that was the big thing.
Right.
I was pretty much coming to the same conclusion maybe about 20 years before that. And I said, I want them to have powers. I want this to be a superhero adventure story, but I also want them to be people that would remind me of people that I knew in my life that had real problems, that had big flaws in their personalities that they wanted to be able to try to either fix or get past, or have these people interact with each other, have these characters interact with each other the way that people really interact with each other, the way people get mad at each other or argue with each other. But ultimately know that because these three characters are all they have, how they come back and they come back together as a family, and they overlook those flaws. They overlook their problems that they've had in the past, and they try to rise above them. The phrase that I use is they're fighting their inner demons and outer demons in the real world. So that's kind of where it came from, and it's been gestating for a long time in my brain. And about 11 issues ago, probably about 2 years ago, I really 2.5 years ago, really knew that I could tell the story the way that I wanted to tell it. And I'm 11 issues into it. It's going strong.
Cool. Now, so tell everybody how you finance and sell these books. It's a little different the way I do it. It's a little different the way a lot of people do it. So I find a way, I find that interesting, what you're doing. So, I mean, let everybody know what's going on.
Yeah, I'm pretty much a one-man band.
Mm-hmm.
I've been lucky enough to be able to work with a few colorists on The Offspring and other projects that I've had in the past. I love teaming up with people. I love working with other people, writers, colorists, letterers. But right now, for this story that I'm trying to tell with The Offspring, I really wanted to be able to, I guess, as an artist and a writer, sit in a dark room and work it out myself.
Right.
Work out all those writing and drawing issues myself. So I have been for the last, I had a colorist come in and help me with issue 1 and issue 3, but since then I've been doing everything myself. I really enjoy the process. There's challenges that are sometimes they seem a little too daunting, but then once you push through it, you're like, oh, okay, I did it, great. But I really like the idea or the fact that it's mine.
Right.
That makes sense. Like, it sounds a little
Mm-hmm.
weird, I guess, but I really enjoy the fact that I did it from beginning to end.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, and I'll tell you about some other books that I have a little later on if time permits. But I really do enjoy working with other people, with other writers, other colorists, other anyway, even other artists, where I'll write for them.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a different satisfaction when you're holding the book in your hand and you know you did it. You know you did everything, and it's the ins and outs of everything was 100% your baby.
Right. No, no, no. I got you. I mean, I'll date myself. I My first self-published work
Mhm.
as a publisher was in 91,
Nice.
92.
Nice.
Okay, so I was 18, 19 years old
Okay.
at the time.
Mhm.
I worked with a crew of people. I think there was about 8 or 9 of us at the time,
Mhm.
all just coming out of high school, all just trying to prove ourselves. What's funny is I think myself, my wife, were the only ones that really stuck with it,
Mhm.
because that's how I met her.
All right.
But what happened was we, by doing, it's funny. I just lost my entire frame of thought. It's terrible being old. People grow old. Anyway,
I'm there
so
with
let's move. Let me move back to David. David.
No, no, I want to hear. I want to hear. I want to hear what you were saying. You were talking about how you were coming out of high school. You had high school friends, and you were working on your first published book together. I want to hear.
Right, right. We were working on our first published book, and when this thing came out, we were um like, it's funny like how we got to grow as artists.
Mhm.
You understand? Like we got to really grow. Like, I mean, if you were to see, I did 20 issues of this book called Tall Tales with my wife. She's the artist, Daphne Lage. And if you see those first 3 issues, they're okay. They're not great,
Yeah.
but it's one of those things. Like
Yeah.
it can be better. But when issue 4 hit, right? When that issue hit, you can see a change. Something, I don't know what happened.
Mhm.
You understand? I think I hit that million words. I don't know if you know the thing where you have a million bad words in you, so you have to get those million words
Oh,
out.
those out. Yeah. You gotta
Right.
get those out. Yeah.
Yep. So I think I got it out by that 4th issue, and that 4th issue was just like, oh, it's picking up. It starts to get better.
Oh yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So
I found that in watching as a I guess use the word connoisseur of pop culture and television like we all are.
mhm.
You look at something that you really love and you go back and watch the first 4, 5, maybe 10 episodes, and you're like,
Right.
this isn't as good as I remember. And then you get second season, third season, you're like, they hit a stride. They hit
Right.
their stride and they really started honing on what they were doing. Yeah, that's one of the things pushing through those times where you're like, am I telling the story correctly?
Mhm.
It's difficult, but yeah, once you do it, it's like, yep, we're off and running.
So let me ask you a question. So you're writer, creator, the whole thing. When do you think was your moment? When you hit that moment, when you think you're like, yeah, I could do this, where you can sit back and say, I could put this in front of somebody and be proud of it.
Yeah, I would say that it was a long road to get just issue 1 of the Offspring up and running. It was those feelings of like, oh my gosh, is my is this panel perfect? Is this am I representing this character and this storyline exactly the way I want to do it? And I think once I kind of got over those fears and my own ego on some level, the first issue, and I had a few other smaller things, small press stuff come out before that.
Right.
But once I got that first issue of Offspring out, and I turned to my last page of the Offspring where you try to have that hook at the end, and I looked at it and said, this works. This is working. This I like what's happening here. It's dark. It's got funny stuff in it. It's got some horror stuff in it for people. It's got action adventure in it. I was like, I think I can keep this going for about 1,000 issues.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, oh yeah. So that's actually a good point. So your story, you're up to issue 11. How long do you think you're going to keep that running? Like, do you have like a huge overarching story you're telling? Do you have like smaller arcs within that? Are you, so
yeah. Both. I
Okay.
have the whole thing plotted out.
Right.
I know the beats I want to hit
Mm-hmm.
inside of the smaller stories. Those contained stories. After issue 11, 12, and 13, we wrap up that, which takes the team to a more of a cosmic threat than they've ever dealt with in the smaller. The first ones were really small learning, building experiences for them.
Right.
And then I throw them into an experience that they would have no reason to even think it existed. So after 11, 12, and 13, that 3-arc run, I have to do a road trip. So there's a reason that they go on a road trip, and in that road trip is those smaller contained stories, but still pushing the overall story arc together. They're moving on their way to where they're going, and why they're going there. But in the time they start to finish, it's a great opportunity to be able to get to know the characters even more. Get to know where their problems are, where the mistakes that they would make in the situation, in the crazy, supernatural, in some cases, situations that they are in. But I do have an ending, and I'd say it's probably about issue, barring any problems, issue 100.
Wow.
Is the
Okay.
plan to be able to hit that ending,
Mm-hmm.
and I have had to take some stories out. So I've had stories that I knew and I even had plotted out and ready to go. And I said, this doesn't quite fit. I'm going to have to take this out and see if I can maybe do it as a one-shot or something somewhere. But the good thing about having the whole thing plotted out and know where I'm going with it is that I can put those little Easter eggs that everybody's talking about now. I can put little Easter eggs from issue 1 to issue 50 to issue whatever. And if people look back on it, they can say, oh, he wasn't just making it up as he goes along. He had a plan for it. So those little Easter eggs, those little plot points to be able to put in where people can look back and say, oh, okay, I remember them looking at that or seeing that, and now it's actually happening. So that's, for me, the fun part of fun, daunting, but fun to be able to have it all ready to go and know that in there I can weave in different things that I might need to, because 100 issues, 5 years from now, I might think of a better idea.
Right.
So,
yes.
So there's always wiggle room to be able to grow and change and have the characters grow and change.
Yeah. I've always found for my work, especially with the Oswald Chronicles, it has to be malleable. You have to be able to adapt at any time, because, I mean, I don't know how you started your story. I'm a genius. I started in the middle instead of the beginning.
Perfect.
So, but instead of just like starting in the middle and then just continuing from that point, I started from the middle and started jumping around in his timeline with no regard as to, where is this really going?
There's a big freedom to that, be able to say, I just thought of a great idea, I'm going to put that in now.
Oh, yeah. Let me tell you, I've had a lot of fun. Don't get me wrong. But I've written myself to a point where I'm just like, oh, this thing is so big. It's like, why is it so big? And it's just like, because I am about 1,000 pages into it of artwork.
Awesome.
And, I mean, a lot of people say that. They say, awesome. I say crazy.
Crazy. Crazy.
Right. Yeah.
Crazy enough.
Yeah, because I'm looking at probably another 1,500 pages to get it done. And
hey, that's the dream.
Yeah, I mean, it is. I mean, it's working. I'm able to sustain. I'm able to put it on. Through crowdsourcing, using Kickstarter, Indiegogo, that sort of thing. So that's how it's working for me. So to get it back to you, how are you financing your book and getting it out to the public?
A very patient wife and 2 children.
Right.
I'm financing the book. It really, because of my one-man band status, it really is time. Time is the big equalizer. Time is the currency that I'm working on. I don't really have much of a budget other than the things that I would need, pencils and pens and stuff like that, to be able to make what I'm making. So as far as like kickstarting and Indiegogo, I'm that's on the list of things to really look into, to be able to see if that can, again, get eyes on the book. We were talking about that earlier, getting eyes on the book and getting people to be able to read the thing that we create that you love so much. So the Kickstarters and Indiegogos are on the list of things to try. But as of now, it's me in a room,
Mm-hmm.
in a dark room, usually watching or listening to whatever is getting me in the mood that day, to be able to get the drawing done. And like I said, I'm lucky enough to have a family that says, "Guys, do you mind if I go draw for an hour?" And they go, "Yes, go draw for an hour," and I can come out and continue to be dad and husband and all the things, do the dishes and all that kind of stuff in the middle of it.
Now, do you ever say, "Hey guys, I'm gonna be gone for an hour," and then come back 6 hours later?
Oh yeah, and then
Exactly.
and I walk out and I go, "Guys, I'm so sorry." They're like, "You were gone. We didn't."
Oh, yeah, exactly. They're like, what? You were doing something? Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, David, I mean, when you were growing up, you understand, what were your inspirational moments as far as becoming a creator? Just to give you an example, for me, probably when I was around 12, I was visiting my aunt, went to the corner grocery store, picked up Daredevil. I think it's 168 when Elektra first appears.
Yeah.
Okay. And for me, when I read that book, it was the first time I said to myself, I said, if I were to write a comic book, I want it to be like this. So I mean, at what point in your growing up, where did you feel like that you felt that moment?
I don't know if it was one particular moment as much as it was a string of moments that happened from the day I was born to right now.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I grew up, like I said, in the late 70s, early 80s, and my older brother and I, we'd ride our bikes across town, probably too fast and too loud than we should have been doing. And we would go get comic books, and I started off finding the nickel comics of Archie and Jughead and Hanna-Barbera stuff, Mighty Mouse, finding all those kind of comics that would just happen to be in this old store that we would go to where we'd get candy.
Right.
And I was lucky enough to be able to latch on to superheroes from there. New superheroes who watched Super Friends like anybody, and noticed that after getting the superhero stuff, I said, I think this is what I want to do. I was probably 10, 11 years old, and my parents were yelling at me for drawing, Captain America on my math homework, and and they, at the dinner table, get the sketchbook off the dinner table. They were nice enough to buy me the sketchbook, but they wanted it off the dinner table. So, like I said, it was just a string of watching cartoons, Super Friends, Masters of the Universe, all those kind of heroic. There was another one, Silverhawks, Thundercats, Conan, loved it. That I knew that I wanted to be able to draw, to be able to create those kind of action-oriented books. And then the Hanna-Barbera stuff comes in, and I love to be able to throw in some jokes every once in a while.
Right.
Like I love to be able to throw in a joke where people aren't expecting a joke, hoping that it catches them off guard enough to go, "Oh, that's funny. Now let's get back to the action."
Right.
So, like I said, just a string of a whole bunch of moments of knowing and having the support, like I said, from my parents to be able to know that that's what I wanted to do, and saying, "Go do it, but make sure you do your math homework in some way." Too.
Gotcha.
So I remember picking up DC's Who's Who. Remember the old DC, original DC Who's Who? Flipping through that and getting being inundated with all that information and all the character backgrounds and their powers, their weaknesses, their aliases, their friends, their backstory, and just remembering or thinking that I hope that I can create characters that have this much backstory, that have this much character and heart, and to where people would care about them, just like we care about Superman, Batman, Captain America, all those things.
Oh no, yeah. I mean, yeah. Growing up in that era where, I mean, so was it a candy store?
It was called. I grew up in a small town outside of Dayton, Ohio, called Xenia, Ohio, with an X.
Okay.
It was the Xenia Coin Shop. Shout out to Xenia Coin Shop if anybody remembers that. They're still there. I think the owners have changed, but my brother was big into football cards and baseball cards, and they happened to have just a whole bunch of old Archies and Mighty Mouses and whatnot. So and they had candy on the counter too because they knew kids were coming in to and would buy candy. So it was one of those places that had, because it was a coin shop, it had bars on the wall.
Mm-hmm.
He had to like ring you in.
Yeah, right.
Old kid walk into this with your 12-year-old brother. You're like, what is happening? Why are we in a cage? What? It was a surreal but fun part of my childhood that my brother and I just went crazy and wild and were able to do whatever we wanted. My mom and dad had 4 other children younger than us, so we were watched, we were taken care of, but we were also set free from time to time to do whatever we wanted to do.
Like, I'm in New York City. I was a latchkey kid, so I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah, you got it.
You know, I know exactly what you mean. No, the reason I bring it up because, you know, when I was a kid, we had candy stores, and that's where I basically got all my comics for a while, until I was introduced to my first comic shop, which was Super Snipe, which was one of the first comic shops in New York City. I think it was the first. I'm not sure though, but it was definitely one of the first. It was there for a while. Guy hasn't been around forever, but which is a shame. So let me ask you a question. What was the first comic shop you ever went to? And like, what are your fond memories?
There was outside of the town that we grew up, I guess you describe it as like a hippie alternative town. Town might yell at me for saying that, called Yellow Springs, Ohio.
Mm-hmm.
And they had a comic book shop called Dark Star. Cool. And it was not only new comic books, but they had it seemed to me, every book that ever been published in the history of written literature.
Oh, cool.
So you would walk in and they would have Superman, Batman, Spider-Man on the wall, but you could also go in and read Mark Twain or think any other writer you'd ever want to read. 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, Jules Verne. And they were nice enough for it to be you didn't really have to buy anything. You could go in and you could sit and you could read. And I sat and I read for hours and hours. Of course, I bought stuff too because they were nice enough for me to let me sit there. So that was the store that I remember that I think of when I think of the store that I would buy comic books to start off with. I think it was, quite honestly, one of the place that I bought most of the books in my collection that I hesitate to use the word treasure, but that I treasure in my collection, that are the ones that are going to pass down to my kids, who will sell them and be done with them by the time I'm gone.
Got you. Yeah. Now, being an indie guy, what was the first, I don't know if you remember, who was the first indie comic you ever picked up?
Well, you know, it's not the first one I ever picked up, but would you still consider Image indie comics at this point?
Yeah.
Sort of, kind of. Yeah, I can do Star Brand. That was a DC brand, though, wasn't it?
Wasn't that Marvel?
And The Fly. Was it Marvel? It was an offshoot of one of them.
Yeah.
At the time, though, I didn't know the difference. Right. But I like those alternative heroes.
You said,
say again?
You said The Fly?
The Fly.
Yeah, I think that was Red Circle out of Archie.
Yes, yeah. But I would say the alternative stuff was old Jim Shooter stuff, like Magnus.
Magnus Robot Fighter.
And what's the other one? I liked, because I'm a red-blooded American man, Vampirella.
Oh, yeah.
Why not, right?
No, I mean, I have a friend. He just finished writing a book on Vampirella.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it was on the history of her.
You can't go wrong with a vampire hot chick, right?
No, you can't.
It was genius.
Yep. So yeah, no, I mean, I go back a little bit further back. My first indie book was Jack Kirby's some PC Comics, Captain Victory.
Awesome.
So yeah, that was, and that was the first book that I saw, and I was like, wow, because up until that point, you're buying Marvel and DC, right? Yeah. And and then it was the first thing I ever saw that was different.
Yeah.
It wasn't like any of that other stuff. So I found that really interesting. So all right. So now, how are you selling your books? Like, where can people find your books, and where can people get a hold of your product?
Yeah, I'm on Amazon. I'm on Comixology. I'm on Lulu also.
Mm-hmm.
If you go to my website, correcthandedcomics.com, there's links to every book, including a novel that I wrote.
Mm-hmm.
So there's links to not only comic books but books without pictures.
Right. Right. Yes.
Yeah, so
Yeah. We've done a
you can
few
go
of
on
those.
to correcthandedcomics.com, my Facebook page at Correct Handed Comics. I'm on Twitter
Mm-hmm.
at Handed Correct, and I have another Twitter page for just the Offspring at the Offspring00. And then I'm on Instagram, and I like to put some different stuff on Instagram. So david.whalen.1614. You
Mm-hmm.
can find some different stuff on Instagram also that I try to put different things on there that aren't on Facebook and Twitter, just to make it a little different, an alternative to the alternative, I guess.
Mm-hmm. All right, that's cool. Now, okay, like for the because the reason I'm asking is because I'm into physical copies. So on the website, you can order physical copies of the books.
Yeah, well,
Okay.
it'll direct you to one of the either Amazon or Comixology, or and there's a whole list of there, or Lulu to be able to find it. Yeah, and there's digital and print for both of my.
Okay.
I'm out of, except for a couple copies. I'm out of actual physical books right now, which is I guess a good thing that I don't have any physical not many physical books to show. But yeah, you can get digital. I'm a physical guy, physical book guy also.
Mm-hmm.
Digital stuff. For a digital world, that's okay, but I like to hold it. I like for it to be on the table and collect dust and
Yeah.
get off the table and blow the dust off and open it up again and
Mm-hmm.
all that. So yeah, I'm a physical book guy also. So yeah, there's digital and print there.
Yeah, I like the tactile feel of a book, and I like just like holding it. You know. Um. So now you were telling me that okay, so you're working on the book you're currently working on. Now, what was the what was your first work? Like, what was your introduction into doing comics as an artist, as a writer? Like, how did you first get involved? And were you working for a publisher?
Yeah, I had been working for about 10 years in my 20s as a graphic designer.
Mm.
And I was going to school to become a teacher. That's my day job. I teach K through 5 art.
Okay.
So it's really satisfying to be able to have a job where I create my own stuff, but also be able to help kids create their own stuff. Also, once I got got my degree and started teaching, that's really when I started getting the bug to be able to start putting it all together, putting the books together. So I started reaching out to some small press, some super small press stuff that you can find. There was a book that I worked on, a zero book. It was only 12 pages long. This feels like a million years ago, called The Patriot. And if you can find it, congratulations. But I was really proud of it. I still am really proud of it. And there was a couple other books I worked for that company. I don't believe they are putting much out these days. Like I said, it was probably 8, 9 years ago.
Right.
If they are, it's very low key stuff. But once I got in that situation, I said, yeah, this is okay, but I want to do my own. I want to do more stuff.
Right.
So from there, the small company that I worked with actually really worked out because there's a few creators that I still talk with today and still create books today. There's one of the creators that wrote for that company. We got together a few years back and we made he wrote and I drew 100 plus page graphic novel called The Loved Ones.
Okay.
And it's the story of the children of classic movie monsters. So Man and Dracula and Frankenstein's monster.
Right.
They go out and hunt their parents.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's a good mix of classic movie monsters with a lot of action, adventure, a lot of little twists and turns. But Brian Menard is who wrote it, and he has his own comic book company called Dojo Kun Comics, and I'm sure you can find him on Facebook at Dojo Kun Comics. But he's got a bunch of books out also now. So it's that connection that I found with that old company that I worked with that's still pushing me forward and still making books with other people today. So it was very much worth it.
All right. Cool. That's awesome. So you were telling me that okay, you work on the story you're currently working on, but you say you've worked on some other work as well. So I mean, what are the other things you've done? You know, aside from what you're doing now.
Yeah, I have, like I said, in January, I put out my first 24-page one shot. What I'm trying to do is get a few more accessible, just 24-page stories out that are self-contained, that aren't going to be like a trade or an ongoing where people have to or get to really invest their time in it. It's a one and done kind of thing. So the one that came out in January, it says, called the Shady Lady, and it's very much a noir thriller, kind of in the same vein as Frank Sinatra's Suddenly. Have you ever seen
Okay.
Frank Sinatra's
No,
Suddenly, that
I
movie?
can't. I can't say I have. No.
It's a great all black. It's probably one of his first movies. Anything by the Gold Man with the Golden Arm, anything by Frank Sinatra, I'll eat it up with a biscuit.
Uh.
It's one of the first movies I saw with Frank Sinatra, and it's a great movie. So it's kind
Mm,
of along that mystery thriller vein. No superpowers, no anything like that. It's about a strong female character who is having problems of her own, which we touch on as we go through the book, but also going through New York City, and I guess, for lack of a better term, righting wrongs that she
mm,
sees and
right.
helping people along the way of her trying to get over her own issues and her own problems that she's having.
Mm,
From there, after I do the story arc of The Offspring, the next story arc, issues 11, 12, and 13, I really have about 20 more one shots that are already thumbed out and ready to go.
right.
Just again, a matter of finding that time to be able to do it. So my
Uh,
plan is, after each story arc of The Offspring, I'm going to put out a one shot,
mm,
just to be able to flex different muscles, to be able to do different genres, to be able to explore different characters. I do have a four-issue miniseries out called
mm,
Evolution Utero, and it's
okay.
probably the most superhero thing that I have out.
Mm,
The idea is, it's the worst kind of woman you've ever met. Like, picture the worst kind of woman you've ever met. Selfish, or
mm.
and turn her into a woman. It's okay.
Okay.
But
Yeah. I mean.
selfish, only cares about herself. Doesn't have any goals or drive in life. Gets in literally gets in people's way to their own happiness, just to make herself feel better about her unhappiness.
Mm,
Well, she picture that kind of person getting impregnated with a superhero baby.
okay.
So the first story arc, the baby doesn't get born in the first story arc. For the first the four issues of this miniseries, it's about really how this fetus inside her, as the fetus grows and changes and starts to develop these superpowers, how the mom changes because of the baby's obvious obvious connection with something bigger than she is.
Right.
It's a knockdown, drag out fights, time travel, big
Mm,
over the top bad guys, funny characters. And my idea with that was to have a four-issue miniseries with a contained story.
mm,
But I do have the next four-issue miniseries to be
right.
to tell the story of, so she doesn't have the baby at the end of the four issues. So the next
Mm,
one is going to be her having the baby,
mm,
but in the worst place possible.
okay.
Picture the worst place possible. I'll let you use your imagination, and then the next one is how she copes with now a superpowered baby, and still dealing with all the changes she's had to deal with in her life also, and still trying to wrangle in a baby that has heat vision.
Mm. That sounds cool. I mean, do you have that? Is it available as individual issues? Do you have a
Yeah.
trade?
Yeah, I have it as a trade. Evolution Utero. You can get it again. It's on. Go to correcthandcomics.com. There's links to the four individual issues, which
Mm.
actually the four individual issues covers. You can combine them to make one giant image,
Oh, cool. Cool.
and I think it really turned out well. It's a one of those panoramic shots of all the craziness that happens, and then it's
Mm.
collected in a trade also that has a little bit more information, a little bit more backstory, and a little bit more behind the scenes stuff for in that trade. But yeah, you can find both print and digital, the trade and the individual 4 issues by going to correcthandedcomics.com.
All right, cool. Now the Offspring, I know because you have 11 issues. Did you ever make a trade of like? Did you ever break it down into trades, or you just have them all as individual issues?
Yeah, they do. I have actually the first trade I have right here, issues 1 through 4. This is the cover for issues 1 through 4 of the trade.
Nice.
I've got a lot of great feedback, a lot of great comments from a lot of the people who have read it. Keep them coming. I love the feedback. I love the comments. But the first trade, issues 1 through 4, is out, and you can find a link to that on the website also. And I have the trade of volume 2 of issues 5 through 10 out also. So you can get individual issues 1 through 11, or if you want to just compact them into trade 1 with issues, volume 1 with issues 1 through 4, and volume 2 with issues 5 through 10. I'm thinking after the end of this storyline, issue 13, I might compact them into one big thing, like a season of the Offspring. I think I'll probably do that by the end of. I'm hoping issue 13 by the end of summer. Fingers crossed. So hopefully by the end of summer, also to be able to have a big anthology of issues 1 through 13.
No, that'd be really cool. Yeah, we did. Like I said, the book I work with my wife, Tall Tales. We have 20 issues of one omnibus. Oh, so nice. It's 540 pages, and it's just a monster.
You have to send me a link to that. I want to see it.
Oh yeah. Awesome. Oh yeah. I'll send you a link to that. Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, because that's our like Chihuahua killer.
That's amazing. That's awesome that you and your wife do it together. My wife is very supportive, but couldn't care less about comic books.
Well, that's how we met. So I mean, we met. We were young, and she was an artist. So I figured, well, I can either pay for it, or I can marry it. So but either way, I'm paying for it.
Yeah, well.
But it's worked out. We've been together a while, so
That's awesome.
Yeah. So, but getting back to your books, like, as a creator, what are you doing to? Obviously, we're doing this, but obviously, what are the other things you're doing to? Because we discussed a little of this before. What are you doing to reach the masses? Like, are you looking to maybe one day try to? I mean, do you self-distribute to stores? Are you looking to self-distribute? Are you looking to one day get into Diamond? Are you looking to do larger print runs, that sort of thing?
Yeah, definitely. These are all things that are on the list of things to do. That one of my biggest hurdles of where I am is I'm in such a rural area that pick a direction from where I'm sitting right now, and every comic book shop is at least an hour and a half away.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So, cons, there are some good cons, really good cons, smaller cons up here where I am. Again, at least an hour away from where I am. So really, right now it's about going to the cons. I have had some books, some success with books in the comic book shops that are in the area. But again, it's just so with 2 kids and a wife and a full-time job, and keeping that stocked is an issue. No pun intended.
Oh yeah.
But those are all things that hopefully when I win the lottery or by selling enough books to be able to do this full time, that I would be able to focus on getting this into more shops, get to any outlet, any retailer that would be able to sell it and to be able to have a bigger print run. I think that I have some connections in other states. This is the 3rd state I've lived in, New York. So I try to use those connections with people to be able to get them books and get them books into their comic book shops, physical books into their comic book shops also. Right. But time is our enemy.
Yeah, time is definitely our enemy, unfortunately. Yeah. But I mean, as an indie publisher, right? Well, obviously we discussed. So, I mean, ultimately, what are your goals? Like, what are you looking to do, with your publishing company? Are you looking to eventually end up with maybe in the hands of a bigger publisher, like an Alterna or something like that?
Yeah, that would be nice to be able to kind of be able to work with and work for other bigger independent companies to be able to do whatever kind of stories they want. I'm a big fan of multiple genres and a big fan of multiple different kinds of books. So ultimately, yes, I would like to be able to get my name out there to bigger independent companies to be able to, and then maybe even eventually the big boys themselves, to be able to tell stories that I enjoy, and tell stories that I think other people will enjoy also. One of the things that I really like to do, well, our brains as writers and creators, they never stop. So one of the things I try to do is come up with different storylines for the big boys, and just write them down, just jot them down, and say, I'm going to keep that in my back pocket just in case, kind of thing.
Right.
So I would say for probably most of the big time characters, like a lot of the creators out there, I've got that 12-issue story arc for them to be able to walk in with somebody who says, what would you do on this character? Oh, I'm ready right now. Let's do it.
Hey man, you never know. It could happen.
You never know. You gotta be ready.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This is very true. I mean, the reason I ask is because I've always been in the pursuit of how to get the work out to a larger audience, because that's actually my biggest thing, is just trying to get the work out. I have a website. I have this stuff on there as a webcomic. We've been looking at something like Tapas and Webtoons. That sort of thing. Just like I said, just trying to get it out to as big of an audience as possible. And it's just hard. I mean, like I said, we're doing this. Getting the ratio to the signal to noise ratio is always a difficult thing to get through. So I mean, but the struggle exists, right?
Yeah. I think for me, the biggest thing is really just about creating those connections. Going to cons. I know when I go to a convention, if I'm selling, I'm gonna break even probably.
Okay.
If I'm not selling, I want to create either way. If I am selling or I'm not selling, I want to create a connect. I want to find connections with people that are there to be able to talk to them and have them remember who I am, remember who they are, remember what they do. It's those connections I think that I've made over the last even just 5 years. To be able to see somebody on Facebook and go, I remember exactly where I met them. I remember exactly what they do. I'm going to share this of theirs. I'm going to do that. I'm going to write them a joke that I know they'll get because they, get out my sense of humor, whatever it is. But really, for me, the going to those cons and trying to go to cons in different states like Chicago and I'm in New York, but getting down to New York City from where I am is a trek. But going to cons in Ohio, where I have family, going to cons in Florida, where I have friends and family, is really the goal to be able to, is really what I try to do, to get the word out, to have my voice heard in the noisiest, loudest room in the history of rooms. But one of the things also is trying as much as I can on Facebook to, if somebody, like, I'm sure everybody's heard it, if you find a new friend on Facebook, you're like, oh, I think this person is doing something similar to what I'm doing. Let me friend them. Or they see the same thing and they friend me.
Right.
And they, without any interaction, they send a, hey, will you please like my page? I always like it. I always like it and say, hey, do you mind if I send my page to you also? And they'll say, oh yes, of course. Even without any other conversation, because it's those interactions that you never know. Like you just said, you never know what it's going to lead to. So I know a lot of people will say, oh, you sent a like before you even asked them what their middle name was and whatever it is,
Right.
Yeah, because I'm here to communicate with other indie creators. I'm here to get to know them and their work through their works.
Right.
So if they saw something on my page that they like and wanted to friend me and then send me their stuff, I'm going to look at it and I'm going to like it and I'm going to give them some kind of positive feedback on what they're doing. And they would do the same thing for mine also, where support indie comics is what we're here for. So that's another way that I try to, on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram, try to reach out to be able to find people that were in my shoes, where I was 10 years ago. People that are where I am now, which are billions of other people where I am now, and then people that have surpassed where I am, so I can learn from them also.
Right. Okay. I got 2 last questions for you. Right. So here's the first one. All right. And these are just fun questions.
All right.
Who would you hire to do a cover? If you could choose any artist,
Jeez.
living or dead, doesn't matter. Who would you choose to do a cover for you?
That's a good question. I would have to say, gosh, that's a good question. I would have to say Frank Miller.
Okay. Okay.
I think his style. I've been very influenced by him and his style. It's very big areas of color, big areas of black, big areas of shadow, big areas of character and character in their faces. And I think that if I had my dream cover, it would probably be done by Frank Miller.
Cool.
Yeah, with lots of cool stuff going on in it.
Yes, that's a good choice. That's a good choice.
Yeah, I don't think you can go wrong with Frank Miller on most, especially a suspense thriller like what I'm putting out.
Exactly. No. That's definitely a good choice. Now, all right. The last question.
Mm-hmm.
What are you reading currently
Mm-hmm.
that excites you?
As far as comic books go, I've been picking up a lot of trades, but I'll be honest with you, I'm probably about a year and a half behind.
Oh yeah, I know that feeling.
Yeah, so it's so much stuff coming out right now. I think it's almost impossible to keep up with it. With all the books and all the storylines and all the shifts of of creators and what they're doing and all the new characters coming out. Oh my gosh! What I try to do is I try to keep up with the main storyline, like the big boys, like Superman. I'll try to keep up with Superman. I just read some of the trades from the New 52. I know that's old news now.
No, that's fine.
But that's I've got some of the trades from the old 52, the Superman, Batman stuff, the Super Sons, which I enjoyed. I really like the dynamic between those two kids, and I'm really interested in the new Superman TV show coming out with him as a parent.
Okay.
As a parent myself, I hope they do it. I hope they do it well.
Yes.
Yeah, I would say I try to stick with. I try to know the basic storylines of what's going on, but I can't say that I have been reading many comic books except for my own and indie comics over the last couple years. Trade here and there, try to keep up with the stories through the internet and through stuff like that. But really, creating has been the main crux of what I'm trying to do. So unfortunately, the love of reading the big boy comics has kind of fallen to the wayside.
Gotcha. I think I buy one mainline DC comic, and it's Justice League Dark.
Oh yeah.
And I don't buy the comics. I only buy trades, so I have to wait. Yeah. And I think from Marvel, I think Thor.
Oh yeah.
Maybe. Huh. Yeah. That's it. That's all I get from them.
Right.
I pick up some other stuff from DC. That's but it's the Sandman stuff. The Neil Gaiman, his curated line.
It's awesome.
Yeah, that's about it. But everything else is indie. I like, Hellboy, bunch of stuff from Image, Boom, Dark Horse. But it's all creator stuff. I don't like buying, Predator or Alien. That stuff. Yeah. I mean, once in a blue moon if it has a creator on it that I enjoy, but that's about it.
Yeah.
So actually, all right.
DC or Marvel guy?
Yeah, primarily I'm a Marvel guy. Yeah.
Oh really?
Oh yeah. Growing up, that was primarily my thing. All right, who's your favorite superhero?
The stock answer, and I would say my all-time favorite superhero is Superman, but a very close second of the like nipping at his heels is Ted Kord Blue Beetle.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. Cool.
I've always loved. I don't know if you can see the background. One of the candidates covered, but one from his original run on the wall here. I've always thought he was a very underrated character. One of those characters that wasn't fleshed out, and he had a great personality, but just wasn't able to shine in places that he should have shined. They made him comedy fodder rather than action adventure star. Both.
Yeah,
both.
That's how I remember the character, because from the JLA.
The blah ha ha.
Yeah, exactly, that stuff. Yeah, him and Booster Gold. Yeah. But well, for me, it'd be Thor, Captain America. Thor and Captain America. Those are my two favorites. So,
What
yeah, I'm a Marvel
iteration
guy.
of Thor? Did Thor even have a alter ego anymore? I don't know. Is he still an
Uh,
alter ego? It was
what do
the
you mean?
doctor on a
Oh
on,
yeah, yeah. Bill, was it Blake?
I think that
Donald
sounds right.
Blake?
I think that sounds right. He probably doesn't even do that anymore, does he?
No, 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 no. As far as I know, no. I think they separated them as two separate entities. They had them. So yeah, I know when Walter Simonson, that was a while ago when I was a kid. Um, one of my favorite runs on there. I think he separated them.
Yeah.
So it was just Thor, and then Donald Blake was off doing something else.
As a big Thor fan, what did you think of Ragnarok?
Which one? Oh, the movie?
Yeah, the Ragnarok.
Oh,
Ragnarok.
I enjoyed it. I thought it was fun. I didn't like his hammer being destroyed, but other than that, I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it. I like Taika Waititi. I think the guy's awesome. I saw one of his other movies, something Lost in the Wilder Land or something.
Oh yeah.
Actually, very good movie, very funny. It's about this little boy and how he has problems, and he ends up getting adopted by this family, and it's bonkers. The movie's just bonkers, but it's a good movie.
What's it called? Lost in the Wilderness?
Yeah, it's something like Lost in the Wonderkind or something like that.
Oh, I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I think I would look it up on IMDb. Just go into Taika Waititi, and then you'll see the other movies. Yeah, it has. Did you see the second Deadpool movie?
Yes.
Okay, remember the little kid with the hands?
Yeah.
He's the little kid. He's the little bad kid in that movie. Yeah.
That's awesome. The second Deadpool movie, when they played Dolly Parton 9 to 5, I'm like, this is one of my new favorite movies ever.
Yeah. And with him is remember the original Jurassic Park movies?
Yes.
The lead actor, I forget his name. He was in Ragnarok. He was in Ragnarok. He was in the little play of Loki. He played Odin.
What was his name?
Oh man, I am terrible. This is the one thing I'm terrible. I never remember. Is it Sam?
There's people screaming at us right now.
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Brains can't always.
Exactly. I've never been good at remembering anyone's name except comic books. Like I know who Sal and John Buscema are. It's like I know what John Byrne and George Perez are, but
Yep.
But yeah, you asked me about an actor. But I was like, but no, but the guy's awesome, and he's in it. He plays the adopted father, or he adopted the kid. So it was an awesome movie, though. I would definitely check that.
Check that out. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So I got one last question for you. Even though I said the other two are the last ones. Is there anything I didn't ask you that you maybe wanted to discuss?
No, I think we got it. Okay. Yeah. I do have one more thing to plug. Is that okay?
Go for it.
Like I said, a novel. I'm a big Western fan.
Cool. This
is my novel, The Last Ride to Tyburn. And you can find links to it on my Facebook page, correcthandedcomics.com. Also, it's a I hesitate to use the word traditional spaghetti Western because it's got a lot of it's got all the things you'd want: shootouts and a love story and jokes and ridiculous action and weird stuff happening in it. But it's a Western that I think really tests the boundary. Not to sound weird or whatever, but test the boundaries of the genre. That makes sense. Like how far you can push the genre to be able to it's like right on the cusp of sci-fi, but it never quite goes over the
edge
cliff. But it's a good fun read. I've again got a lot of great feedback on it, and I appreciate all the feedback on it, and a lot of great likes and stuff like that on The Last Ride to Tyburn. So you can find my novel on correcthandedcomics.com also. Cool.
Thank you very much, David.
Thank you.
It's been an honor.
You having me on.
Listen, like I said, it was an honor. I love, listen, I this is one of the reasons I started this is because I want to talk to creators. I want to talk to indie creators. I want to talk to people who are doing their own thing. You know what I mean? I think it's important that we all strive to do our own thing and, and try to get the word out and get the message out, So, like I said, thank you so much. You're awesome. I have all your links in the show notes, so people are gonna be able to follow them. Just follow those links. You'll be able to find David's work. You'll be able to look at some of my work, but check out David. His stuff is awesome, man. Thank you so much.
The links to your one of your books that you were talking about. I'm gonna check that out. That sounds awesome.
All right, cool. Thank you.
Thank you, man.
All right, guys, have a good night. Take care.